Hello UPSC aspirants, hope you're doing fine. What are the measures taken to contain inflation? How the rupee is appreciated or depreciated in the international markets? What happens to the macroeconomic stability of the country if fiscal deficit increases? All these questions are asked in UPSC prelims as well as in mains to test the basic knowledge of economy for the aspirants. Without any further delay, let's get started with the basics of the economy. What is the basic philosophy in the economy? The combination of supply and demand. Yes. Both supply and demand defines the value of a commodity or product or anything you can say in the market. So how this supply and demand will decide the value of a product? Let us take example of water supply in the house. What do you do if water supply is more in your house? You will be wasting water. You will be frequently washing your hands. You will be frequently washing your dishes. You will be wasting it. That means the value for water will be less. When the supply of water is more, the value you give to the water is less. Let us say I decrease the water supply in your house. What do? Each and every drop of water is used with a great caution. That means when I decrease the water supply, you increase the value of the water, right? That is what happens in supply and value. Increase the supply of any product, then the value of the product decreases. Decrease the supply of any product, then the value of the product increases. Thinking demand is constant here. Your demand for water is always constant, no? Per day your requirement of water is same. But if I play with supply of water, the value you give for water would be changing. Same way, the commodity in the market, any product in the market, if demand is maintained, with the increase or decrease of supply of the product, the value of the product can be changed. Let's come to demand and value. Let's take example. There are 10 Kinder Joy. There are 10 Kinder Joy in the shop and there are, let us say, 10 kids fighting for Kinder Joy. So each Kinder Joy costs around 50 rupees. Then okay, fine. The shop vendor would be giving 10 Kinder Joy to 10 kids for 50 rupees. Let us say there are 20 kids fighting for 10 Kinder Joy in the shop. So what will the vendor do? Shopkeeper says, it's not 50 rupees I am going to sell. I will be selling it for 60 rupees. Whoever can give me 60 rupees, I will give Kinder Joy to that kid only. So he'll make the Kinder Joy 60 rupees instead of 50 rupees. Because the demand for Kinder Joy is increased. Here only 10 kids are there. Here 10 plus 10 kids are there for 10 Kinder Joy. That means 20 kids for 10 Kinder Joy. The demand is increased. Whenever the demand is increased, with supply maintained constant, then the value is increased. Whenever demand is decreased, let us say there are only 5 kids, the demand for Kinder Joy decreases. The shopkeeper may give it for 45 rupees itself. So whenever the demand is decreased, the value of the product decreases. Here what we have seen is direct proportionality between demand and value, inverse proportionality between supply and value. So, in order to increase the price or value of a product, what should you do? Either you decrease the supply or you increase the demand. If you want to decrease the price, increase the supply or decrease the demand. This is how the prices or the value of commodities in the market gets changed with supply and demand of the products. Let's come to the concept inflation. What does inflation mean? Inflation means general rise in prices. The prices of the products or the commodities are increased. That means, let us say the tomatoes were costing 30 rupees. If today they are costing 40 rupees, then we say there is an inflation. There is rise in prices of all the commodities and the products. Then we say there is an inflation in the economy. that is rise in prices of the commodities. So what should we do to contain this rises of prices? To contain inflation, what are the measures to be taken? In general, the basics of the economy says, in order to decrease the price, what should we do? Decrease the demand or increase the supply. So in order to contain inflation, first we should decrease the demand for the products. How to decrease the demand for the products? By decreasing disposable income in the hands of the people. What is this disposable income? After getting your salary, after payments of EMI, rents, premium for insurance policies or PF, after paying all those things, whatever money you will be left to consume, that is called disposable income. That is the money used for consumption. If this money used for consumption is decreased, then you generally demand less products in the market. For example, your grandma is drinking 6 teacups of tea every day. 6 teacups of tea every day she is drinking. Let us say your dad disposable income has decreased. Then your grandma might be thinking, oh my god, 6 teacups are costing so much and it is burdening my son. So I'll be reducing my 6 teacups to 3 teacups per day, so that the burden would be less for my kid, less for my son. So what she is making, 6 teacups to 3 teacups per day, her consumption, she is decreasing. When the consumption is decreased, the demand is decreased. Per day, the demand for milk from your house decreases as your dad got disposable income less. So whenever we make the disposable income less, then the consumption would be decreased. When consumption gets decreased, then the demand gets decreased. So how to change the disposable income? The government can change the disposable income by increasing taxes. If I increase the tax, then the disposable income decreases. For example, after paying taxes, a salary employed was getting 30,000 per month. If I increase the taxes, after increase, he might be getting 28,000 rupees per month. So, the disposable income in his hands would be reduced if I increase the taxes. And next way to decrease the demand is decrease the money supply in the market. How to decrease the money supply in the market? First thing is increase interest rates. See, for example, yesterday I was getting 8% as interest rates for any FD. If the same thing is increased to 9%, then I would be more interested to keep my money in FD rather than consuming that money. I would prefer to keep that money in FD as I'm getting more interest on it. So, if we increase the interest rate, people are prone to keep that money in the banks rather than consuming it. That means they procrastinate the consumption, they delay the consumption, they postpone the consumption because of the increased interest rates. That means they decrease the demand again. So whenever there is a decrease in demand, inflation can be contained. By increasing interest rates, the money supply can be decreased. Who changes these interest rates? RBI through repo rate, reverse repo rate. Through repo rate and reverse repo rate, RBI changes these interest rates so that the money supply in the market can be changed. Thereby, the demand gets changed. Thereby, the inflation is contained. And next way to decrease the money supply is increase CRR, SLR. They are the liquid cash to be kept by the banks. So when the cash increases inside the banks, then the money outside the market decreases. Cash with banks increases. Then cash in the market decreases. So when cash in the market decreases, that means the money supply is in the market decreases, thereby demand decreases, thereby inflation can be contained. Who changes this CRR SLR? Again RBI. These two are called as tools of monetary policy. So through interest rates, repo rate, reverse repo rate, CRR, SLR, RBI can handle the inflation by changing the money supply in the market. And the next way is containing fiscal deficit. What is this fiscal deficit? The government expenditure is high. When the government expenditure is high, the money supply in the market is high. So whenever the money supply is high, the demand would be more. So in order to decrease the demand, contain the fiscal deficit, contain the government expenditure, decrease the expenditure. Then the money supply decreases, thereby demand decreases. When we come to supply side, what should we do to contain inflation? Increase the supply. There is something called cartelization. Vendors keep all the products in their inventory so that the supply in the market, the supply of the products in the market are less and the prices increases in the market. After price increase, they release their products in the inventory so that they can get more profits. That is what cartelization is all about. If government checks on this cartelization, then the supply would be increased in the market. Supply of products is increased in the market, thereby inflation can be contained. And the next is imports. There is a dearth of pulses in our country. So, because of less supply of pulses, there is price rise in pulses commodities. So, the government imports those pulses in order to contain the prices. Whenever we import, the supply is increased. Thereby, inflation can be contained. And the next way is release from buffer stocks. Whenever there is a price rise of wheat or rice in the market, FCI releases from its buffer stocks so that the supply of the products increases and thereby inflation can be contained. Or government can also incentivize the manufacturers to increase the products or increasing the productivity. For example, I told you, if tomatoes are costing more, then increase the productivity of tomatoes. Then supply increases and thereby inflation can be contained. This is the way inflation can be contained through demand and supply of the products. Let us come to the concept fiscal deficit. What is this fiscal deficit? If the government's expenditure goes beyond income of government, then it is called fiscal deficit. How to contain this fiscal deficit? We have to target from two sides. One is from income side and the other is from expenditure. See, if income is more than expenditure, then we say we are in fiscal surplus. If income is less than expenditure, that means expenditure is more, then we call it fiscal deficit. In order to contain the fiscal deficit, what we have to do? Increase the income, decrease the expenditure. Then this deficit can be contained. How to increase the income of the government? Increase the taxes or increase the tax collection. Generally, increasing taxes is non-populative measure. So, government goes for increasing tax collection measures. And the next is through dividends from PSUs. That means profits from public sector units or disinvestments. Through this, the income of the government increases and thereby fiscal deficit can be contained. Now comes to the expenditure side. What we should do to the expenditure? We should decrease the expenditure. So first thing is decrease public administration costs. Generally it is not decreasing, it is called minimizing. Minimizing public administration costs by adopting to digital technology. And next is targeting the subsidies. Example, direct benefit transfer. If the subsidies are targeted, the leakages in the subsidies are minimized. When the leakages are minimized and the targeting of subsidies takes place, the expenditure again decreases on the government side. Decrease this infrastructure spending. Generally, economists say we should not decrease spending on infrastructure side. What we should do? Non-productive infrastructure should be stopped. Wherever the infrastructure is thought to be non-productive, then we should stop those projects. And social sector spending. This also should be minimized or should be targeted, but not should be curtailed completely. Social sector spending is like on health, on education, on skill development. All these are for the development of the citizens. So this should not be decreased completely. Rather, this should be minimized by the government, or this should be taking targeted approach. So whenever the expenditure decreases, the deficit decreases. Whenever income increases, deficit decreases. What happens if fiscal deficit is high? The problems with high fiscal deficit are, the first important problem is inflation. I already told you, if fiscal deficit is high, the money supply in the market is high. With money supply being high in the market, the demand for the products would be high. When the demand is high, the prices would obviously increases. That is nothing but inflation. This is bad for economy. And the next thing is crowding out. What is this crowding out? See, money supply in the market is high. That means money with banks is less. So, private investments would be less. Whatever investments the private companies want to do, they go out of the economy. They go to abroad and they invest there. So as a whole, the investment in the country decreases. The investment in the country decreases, then it is called as crowding out effect. The next is balance of payment crisis. How this happens? With FD, the money supply is more. That means rupee are more in the market compared to dollar. This is supply. Supply is more means value decreases. That means rupee value depreciates against the dollar. That means $1 when it was costing 70 rupees, today it would be costing 80 rupees because of high fiscal deficit. What happens with depreciation of rupee? Imports become very costly. How? For $10, we are giving only 700 rupees. But due to inflation or due to increased FD, for $10, today we are paying 800 rupees. That means imports are getting costly. We are paying more rupees for the same value of product in the international market. In the international market, the price is same, $10, $10. But we are giving more rupees. That's why imports become costly. Exports become cheap. How? Previously, our product would be costing 70 rupees, say. So, we are getting $1 for 70 rupees. But now, we'd be getting $0.87 for 70 rupees. That means the dollar we are getting is decreased. That means exports have become cheap. With this imports becoming costly and exports becoming costly, our current account deficit would be increasing. So we need to pay more dollars. We need more dollars to pay our current account deficit. That means it is nothing but a balance of payment crisis. In balance of payments, we have got current account deficit. This current account deficit with fiscal deficit, they are called as twin deficits. This twin deficit is very bad for economy. It causes macroeconomic instability. And the next problem with fiscal deficit is sovereign debt crisis. What is this? I already told you, if fiscal deficit is high, rupee will depreciate. That means we need to pay more dollars for our imports. This would cause decrease in our forex reserves. That means we are having less dollars to pay for our imports in the future. Then we will be having sovereign debt crisis. All these lead to macroeconomic instability. In a way, fiscal deficit is something that can lead to macroeconomic instability. So it is required that fiscal deficit has to be minimized. FRBM says 3% of fiscal deficit is good for the economy. More than this is to be contained by the government. Why this 3%? Why do we need fiscal deficit? For spending in social sectors, for spending for infrastructure, for spending for subsidies. For all these things, government needs money. That money it can get through bonds, securities, savings of the people through National Small Savings Scheme. So, government needs money to fund its fiscal deficit to spend on social sector, infrastructure and subsidies. Now, let's come to another topic, balance of payments crisis. What is this balance of payments crisis? If we take our country as a system, we have got inflow of dollars and outflow of dollars. If this outflow of dollar is more and if inflow of dollar is less, this is more, this is less, then we have got BOP pressure, balance of payment pressure would be there. What is this balance of payment? We do payments in the international markets in dollars, not in rupees, right? Whatever we buy products from the international markets, most of them are traded in dollars. So when we want to trade in dollars in international market, what we need to have? We need to have forex reserves, foreign exchange reserves in dollars, right? When we have less dollars through this equation, more would be going out, less would be coming in, then I would be having very less. If reverse happens, more would be coming inside and less would be going outside, then I would be having more reserves. So the forex reserves would be increased with more inflow. The forex reserves would be decreased with more outflow. If forex reserves are decreased, then what happens? The demand for dollar in our country increases, right? Well, that means supply of dollar, if forex reserve decreases, what happens? Supply of dollar in our country decreases, right? Only in our country the supply of dollar decreases. Then what happens? The dollar value increases. What does it mean the dollar value increases? The dollar vis-a-vis rupee increases. That means the rupee value depreciates. The dollar value appreciates vis-a-vis rupee. Whenever forex reserve decreases, the supply of dollar inside the country decreases. Thereby, when the supply is decreasing, the value obviously is increasing. The dollar value increases vis-a-vis rupee, but not in the international market. The dollar value appreciates in our country or in Indian market, and the rupee value depreciates. More number of rupees we need to pay for $1. That is called appreciation or depreciation of the rupee. Whenever rupee depreciates, we need to pay more rupees for $1. Whenever rupee appreciates, we need to pay less rupees for $1. That is called appreciation and depreciation of rupee against the dollar. So whenever our outflow is more than the inflow, then we get balance of payment crisis as our forex reserve decreases. Right? As our forex reserves decreases, to trade in dollars becomes very difficult, or to do payments for our imports, it gets very difficult. Right? So we are in crisis to do the payments for our inputs. That is called balance of payment crisis. So how to contain this balance of payment crisis? What should we do? First, we should increase our inflow of dollars. How we can increase our inflow of dollars? By increasing exports. Dollars should come inside to our economy. By exports, dollars would come to our economy. And then by bonds like NRI bonds, masala bonds, then by FDI, FII. What happens? All these bring dollars to our country, or we can say NRI deposits. If we encourage NRI deposits to our country in dollars, then dollars come to our country. And next is NRI remittances. Most of the NRIs have their family bases in our country only. So they keep sending their remittances to their family members residing in our country. Thereby dollars come to our country. And next is through our service sector. What our service sector do? It gives services like BPOs, call centers, financial services, software services to the customers or the clients staying in abroad. They would be doing their payments in dollars to our service sector employees. So all these would increase the inflow of dollars. So in order to contain BOP crisis, we should decrease the outflow. That means dollars going out, that should be decreased. How? By decreasing the imports. That means whatever we buy from international markets, we buy in dollars. So the imports, if decreased, the outflow of dollars decreased. Foreign holiday. Whenever we go for foreign holiday, all the payments we would be doing in their currencies. So again the outflow of foreign currency would be decreased if we contain foreign holidaying and increase holidaying in our country itself. Interest rates to external commercial borrowings. See, in order to increase the dollars, we are encouraging external commercial borrowings. That is from outside banks, from the abroad, we are taking the loans in dollars. These will bring dollars to our country. But we have to pay the interest rates to those banks. And here we'll be having outflow of dollars. If interest rates are less compared to this gain, then we can go for external commercial borrowings. whatever interest rates we are paying, that would be taken in outflow. If so, we have to maintain these interest rates very low. We should not go to external commercial borrowings that are having high interest rates or that would burden us. And repayment of ECBs, external commercial borrowings, whatever we have taken as loans from abroad, that if we do repayment, there would be again outflow. So we need to minimize external commercial borrowings. We can have them, but we need to minimize them so that outflow would be decreased in the later generations. By increasing our inflow, by decreasing our outflow, BOP can be contained. The pressures of BOP can be minimized. To consolidate the whole session, we can say inflation. In order to contain inflation, we need to increase the supply, we need to decrease the demand to contain inflation. In order to contain fiscal deficit, what we should do? Increase the income side of the government, decrease the expenditure side of the government. In order to decrease the pressure of balance of payments, then what we should do? Decrease the outflow of dollars, increase the inflow of dollars. If we could maintain these balances by playing on supply and demand in inflation, by playing with income and expenditure side of fiscal deficit, with outflow and inflow of dollars in BOP, we can maintain macroeconomic stability in our country. These three are very important for our macroeconomic stability. Don't get tensed. Keep practicing the mock test. You will be able to do it. Stay composed. Stay calm. Don't get agitated anyway. If you are getting less marks, that's okay. Keep practicing. Keep studying. Keep going. All the best, my dear aspirants. If you like our video, please like, share and subscribe to our channel.